Praise and glory belongs to Allah, the eternal absolute, who guides people through the hearts, giving them comprehension and understanding to the ways of peace and the righteous way to live. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I begin, I'd like to make an important announcement. If you are African American, or some people say Moors, Bani Israel, just African, New African, whatever title you named or call yourself, it has come by way of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. Real quick before I get into the subject, by way of reporting from the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, which is a credible source that white supremacists have met in various different groups and have spoken that they more than likely will be doing attacks throughout this July 4th and the weekend. So if you happen to be African American, black, whatever category you call yourself, make sure you have what you need to have, which is necessary to protect yourself and your family. If you're going to be participating in July 4th and all that stuff, which you shouldn't, but if you decide to do that, try your best to avoid large crowds, and just take your precautions that you need to take, because a good thing that this one was announced, because we know as far as in history, sometimes the things are not announced, and things happen and occur, and the news media reports them in different ways. Sometimes they pass them off as gang shootings and violence and stuff like that, but we know it's of a different nature, and sometimes they just mix statistics. So if you happen to just be very vigilant on that. If you got cousins out there, have your cousins with you, or you got friends out there, have your friends with you, or you need a weapon, just take certain precautions that you need to take, inshallah. So with that, we will be getting inshallah into the subject. So if you didn't catch that precaution, go back to the precaution that the Huey P. Newton Gun Club has reported, that white supremacists are planning to do attacks July 4th and throughout the July weekends on blacks, African Americans. So take your precautions that you need, inshallah. Now with that, this is going to be brief. I always say that. This is going to be brief. As you see the title right there, person. So I just want to direct you to a few things inside the Quran concerning certain ayats and stuff, and we as people who dwell more into the Quran, and we're searching for the answers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I started noticing that the ayats are divided into categories, that Allah himself puts them in categories. So we're going to just be looking at just a brief few, and these will be categorically divided into ayats of purification, tazkiyah, if you want to call it that, ayats of hikmah, and ayats of tazkiyah, ayats of hikmah, and ayats of, well, when I read it, I'll give it to you, inshallah. So the first thing we want to do is go to, actually, you know what? This is based off of actually a conversation that I was having with, you know what I'm saying, a brother, and he was saying the Messenger of Allah teaches us, you know, the book, the kitab, the hikmah, the, you know, the wisdom and purifications, and you know, so I actually took time a little bit to do, you know, some further research on that particular item. There's different ones. Should have even grabbed it, but this is basically some of the stuff that I found in a little brief research that I was doing. So when you go to Surah 9, Ayah 103, this is what it says. This is what it states. And as you know how I do, I give you the relevant definition to the part. So Surah 9, Ayah 103, and I'll start at Surah Ayah 102. Well, real quick, it says, some others have confessed their wrongdoing. They have mixed goodness with evil. It is right to hope that Allah will turn to them in mercy. Surely Allah is all forgiving. Then it goes on and says, all forgiving, most merciful. It says, take from their wealth. It says, take from their wealth. It says, take from their wealth, O Prophet, charity to purify and bless them, and pray for them. Surely your prayer is a source of comfort for them, and Allah is all hearing, all knowing. Okay, so inside that, the wealth is amwalihim, right? Amwalihim. So the next one is talking about the charity, which sadaqah, right? Which is sadaqah, and then it says tuta harihum, tuta hirohum, right? So what we got to understand, then it says wa tuzaki himi, wa tuzaki him, right? Which is basically connects to the word zakat, right? So the word is connected to the word taharat, right? So it's tahir, and it is connected to the word zakat, right? So we got in the part where it says, where it's talking about purifying them, that is connected to the root word tahara, right? And the ayat that's talking about it will cause them increase is connected to the word zakat, right? So that is one form of the purification of the wealth, and it's one of the forms of actually purifying, right? Then you have, excuse me, excuse me. So there is that one ayat about purification, and in this context is purifying your wealth, which of course also we know that there is a spiritual aspect to that, to make a person not relying on greed, relying on love of the wealth of this world, right? Which distracts them from actually being dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of problems that happen in this world deals with our spirits, our soul being attached to things and becoming slaves to things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or servants, dedicated servants to things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it's not to please Allah. So that is Surah 9, Ayat 103. Also, you have in Surah 24, ayat 30. Now understand, these are rules right here. Rules of purification. That's what I meant to say. Okay, alhamdulillah. Rules of purification. So you have, inside the Quran, you have rules of hikmah that Allah give, commandments of hikmah that Allah has put as a category in the ayats. And then you have commandments of purification that Allah has put inside the Quran. And then you also have commandments of Siratul Mustaqim, which you will find in Surah 6, ayat 150 all the way to 153. Right? So if you look at that, you'll find that those are rules too. So each one of those rules have their own category that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called, and they interconnect and intertwine. Right? So but right now we're just looking at the commandments of purification. And the point of this is to say that when Allah reveals a thing to his prophet, Allah teaches his prophet, and then his prophet releases the ayats of what that which is being taught, and within those ayats is the purification commands, is also the wisdom commands. Hold on for a second. Let me see, something is going on quick. Sorry, there's an interruption here. Hold on. SubhanAllah. Okay, which one?
I just need medication, that's it. I wasn't trying to be so much. Just put it on pause.
I think because
you can go back doing your thing after I get the medication.
okay.
The Pampron pills, you seen them?
Mm.
Oh, he said we can get the vehicle tomorrow.
Okay.
He's supposed to let me know the... It's a can, little bottle, like the Colate. I just seen it. You know how long you're gonna be?
No.
Huh?
Look, I'm trying to focus.
Okay.
All this conversation is distracting.
That's Colace. It looks like that.
My pimples all or whatever.
It's called Pampering. It's a white bottle.
This right here.
No, it's smaller. Yes. Now I can leave you alone. Sorry. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Y'all need our medication.
Okay, I'm making sense. Stay right here, okay? Okay, stay right here.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's see, is this? Okay, I think it's back. So, I'll continue. So, those are the different categories that some of the commands or some of the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given is divided upon. And the ayats, when Allah reveals to his prophet, he reveals the teachings within the ayat. If it's later ayats, he reveals the tafsir to them. And within those ayats, it has the rules of purification. And within those ayats, it has the rules of hikmah. And it has the rules of Siratul Mustaqim. So sometimes they're given at different stages or at different points. And as sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces what category one is named after which. Right? So that was Surah 9, Ayah 103. Now another ayat of purification is Surah 24, Ayat 30. 24. 24, Ayat 30. So, okay. So this one is the rules of lowering the gaze. It says, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. Then he says, that is purer for them. Surely Allah is all aware of what they do. Right? So, if you notice, this ayat right here, okay, when it said right there in Surah 24, Ayat 30, and you can also read Surah 24, Ayat 30 to 31. But then when it says, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, modesty, that is pure. Now that word, that pure right there, is actually connected to the word zakah. Okay? For purification. It's connected to the word, to the root word that has the word of zakah. Alright? So that is an ayah, or that is a rule of purification. So when a person comes and says, the messenger of Allah came and he gives you the book, he gives you the wisdom, and he gives you the purification, understand that each one of those things that he is giving are actually ayats that tell you how to live your life. And they are in their own categories. Right? So, in this instance, when he says he comes to you purifying, this would be identified right here with Surah 24, Ayat 30. Would be one of those purifying ayats that tells you how to live your life. And then Allah has categorized that as a purifying ayat. You see? So again, that's Surah 24, Ayat 30. The other ayat before that, Surah 9, Ayat 103, is also a purifying ayat. Right? That's categorized under that. So you can read that from Surah 24, Ayat 30. Let's see, Ayat 30 to Ayat 31. Inshallah. Now, let's see. Another ayat of purification would be Surah 24, ayats 27 to 28. Surah 24, ayats 27 to 28. It says, surely those who accuse chaste, unsuspecting, believing women and are cursed in this life and the hereafter. And they will suffer a tremendous punishment on the day their tongues and hands and feet will testify against them for what they used to do. On the day, Allah will give them their just penalty in full, and they will come to know that Allah alone is the ultimate truth. Ayat 26. Wicked women are for wicked men, and wicked men are for wicked women, and virtuous men are for virtuous men, virtuous women are for virtuous men, and virtuous men are for virtuous women. The virtuous are innocent of what the wicked say. They will have forgiveness and an honorable provision. Then it goes on to say, O believers, do not enter any house other than your own until you ask for permission and greeted its occupants. That is best for you. So perhaps you will be mindful. If you find no one at home, do not enter. Do not enter it until you have been given permission. And if you are asked to leave, then leave. That is purer for you. That is purer for you. Right? For them. That is pure for them. Surely Allah is all aware what they do. So the word here for purer is a word that is connected to the word zakat. Right? It's connected to the root word that the word zakat comes from, for purification. So all those I just read would be under the category, O believers, do not enter to the house. From there, which starts at 27, and possibly 26, 23, and 22. So beginning at from Surah 24 to Ayat 22 on down, all the way into Ayat 30. But really, when I see it, it starts at 27. So just to be safe, we'll say it begins at Ayat 27. O you who believe, illa ladina amanu. Right? So, Surah 24, Ayat 27, all the way to Ayat 31. Right? Those are ayats, or you can say Ayat 30. Those are ayats that are called the ayats of purification. Right? Because see, we got to start naming the ayats of Allah, how Allah has named them and categorized them himself. That's the first point. The second point is that these are all commandments, these are all rules. Like when you, like I just said, Surah 6, Ayat 150 to 153, those are rules of Surat al-Mustaqim. That's actually the Surat al-Mustaqim, and Allah named it that. So we should stick to the names that Allah has given certain ayats. So not all ayats are the same. See, all ayats, you just say an ayat of Allah, you have not defined what type of ayat of Allah. Is it an ayat of Allah that deals with purification? Is it an ayat of Allah that deals with hikmah? Is it an ayat of Allah that deals with Surat al-Mustaqim? Right? So at the end of the ayat, Allah will usually tell you what type of ayat it is if He so chooses. Then we can categorize it. Right? So with this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us clearly these are ayats of purification. Right? Now, an ayat of purification, as we see right here, deals with how you should live your life and what will purify and cause peace among society. Right? If someone enters into my front door, right, and they don't get permission, there's going to be some hostility. If someone is attached to wealth, a person can't really get peace like that until you have purified their wealth to make them less greedier or less going after that which is wealthy, that which is less of wealth. Right? So in order for a person to spiritually ascend, a person has to be able to look to the next life and not be stuck on this life. And we know in the commands of Allah to help the poor and the orphan, that takes wealth to do that. Right? But if you're a greedy person, it's hard for you to do such things. So in order for you to become a person that spreads the message of the deen and be able to be a primary example in spreading that, you have to first be purified within yourself, and that takes things that you deal with outside yourself. That becomes your test. So right here, again, Surah 24, and then from Surah Ayat 27 to Ayat 30, and then when you see it says on Ayat 30, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, that is pure for them. Surely Allah is all aware of what they do. Right? That also will lead to, in that instance, you know, men, we like to stare at women so much that we want that woman and this woman and that one and this woman, and that could actually push you to actually disregard, you know, if a person becomes so lustful, that could push a person to degrade a woman, or it could push a person to disregard women, you know, on different levels. So that ayat right there and certain ayats before it can be considered ayats of purification, right? Or whatever category Allah has put certain ayats in. If he says that that is a purification, then that is an ayat of purification. If he says that this is some of the hikmah, this is wisdom, then that is an ayat of hikmah. You see, if he says this is an ayat, and he mentions an ayat and he says this is Surat al-Mustaqim, then that is the ayat of Surat al-Mustaqim. And although they all intertwine and interconnect, we can't go by our own opinions to try to put them in their own categories, right? We have to put them in the category that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has put them in. So, that was one ayat. Now, that example right there, those few examples right there, would be when a person say the prophet came, the messenger of Allah came, and he teaches them the book and the wisdom, hikmah, and purification, and he purifies them. Well, he don't purify them himself. It is revealed from Allah in his book, the purification, and those ayats are given by Allah, and then you will know that they are purification because Allah has defined them as such, right? Same thing what I'm about to read right here when it says hikmah, that the prophet came with hikmah, okay? Where there are ayats that are specified as ayats of hikmah, right? So when you go to Surah 17, excuse me, when you go to Surah 17, ayat 39, Surah 17, Surah 17, okay, and actually, that's the ones I'm going to read, but actually there's more to it than that. Now I'll give you all the ones. So really, for you to get the ayats of hikmah, when Allah mentions hikmah in the Quran, these are actually commands, right? It's a category of ayats that are commands that's specified as hikmah, right? And although all ayats may have hikmah in them, we shouldn't name, according to how we think, right? We think, you know, everything Allah reveals is hikmah, right? Because we know there's wisdom in it, of course. But we should be careful to name things according to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has named things in his book, right? Not according to our own categorizations. So, if you start at Surah 39, excuse me, Surah 17, ayat 38 to 39, it says, okay, here we go. And do not walk on the earth arrogantly. Surely you can neither crack the earth nor stretch the height of mountains. So you got the person, you know, in his head, in his mind, he's so great, he's so big, he walking with his head up like, yeah, what's up? You know what I'm saying? You know, like can't nobody, you know, mess with him, you know. So Allah said, don't walk on the earth arrogantly, right? And he says, surely, then Allah puts something to you. He compares you to something. Surely you can't crack the earth, nor can you stretch the heights of the mountain, to the heights of the mountain. Like, you're not really that big like you think you are, right? But in ayat 38, it says this: the violation of any of these commands is detestable to your Lord. Then he says in ayat 39, listen to this: this is part of the hikmah, wisdom, which your Lord has revealed to you, O Prophet, and do not set up any other God with Allah, O humanity, or you will be cast into hell blameworthy and rejected. So that's in ayat 39. Now, the thing about these commandments actually start at Surah 17, Surah 17, and it begins at ayat 22, and then it ends at ayat 39. So from ayat 22 in Surah 17, from ayat 22 all the way to ayat 39, Allah has defined these as part of the hikmah ayats. So when it says the Prophet came with the hikmah, should you go outside the book of Allah to determine what the hikmah is? Or should you go in the book of Allah to determine what the hikmah is? And if you go into the book of Allah to determine what the hikmah is, then that indeed turns into what they call a tafsir. Allah explaining his ayats. So the tafsir comes from Allah about his ayats. You see? And the Prophet takes that and gives that to the people. And because the Prophet is giving that to the people, that's Allah teaching you through the Prophet. So in essence, that's the Prophet teaching you, because he's getting it from everything he got from Allah, and Allah broke down, and he's passing it on to you and reciting it to you. So when when the messenger of Allah comes to you and he recites Yatlu, he recites the ayats of Allah, and he gives you and it says what? Wa kitab, the writing, wa hikmah, the wisdom. These ayats I just showed you are part of the hikmah, or the hikmah is the ayats of hikmah. And then it says I believe it's zakiyah, right? Purification, right? He gives you the purification. Well, the other ayats I just read to you Allah called those ayats purification, right? And he teaches you what you did not know. And of course, none of us knows the right way to live in life until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly tells us what it is that he has determined or defined for us to live, right? So yes, the Prophet came with the message, the Rasila, but the message, you have to be more specific. When you say Rasila, the Rasila is what? It's just a message is wide. Then you have to specify what is hikmah within that message. What is bayan within that message? What is mutashabihat within that message? What is muhakima in that message? What is hikmah within that message? Right? What is zakat within that message? What is purifying within that message? What is tahara in that message? Right? Even to the point, what is najis? Right? Impure, filth. Right? Munkar. Right? So all these different terms inside the Quran, they have ayats for them. And Allah has put them in their categorizations. It's all in the book of Allah. The book of Allah only alone. In the book of Allah alone. You don't need no hadith books. That which Allah has revealed is what he has revealed. Right? And there's not one ayat out there that tells you to go to another book, other books, hadithi kitabin, right? Books other than the al-kitabulillah, the book of Allah. There's no ayat that says that. At best, some people try to say, obey Allah, obey the messenger, but they fail to realize that the messenger is a flesh and blood human being, and he came with this message and left us al-kitab, the book, for us to go by as our guidance in life. Right? So going by the messenger of Allah is not the same as going by hadith books that other people have narrated about the messenger of Allah. It's not the same. And the reason why it's not the same is, if you can go to one sheikh, and I've said this before, but you can go to one sheikh, he will tell you something that's sahih, and you can go to another sheikh, and that other sheikh will tell you that same hadith is da'if, weak. That's not a clear answer. You can go to one sheikh that says something is sahih, and you can go to another school of another sheikh, and he will say sahih, but their definition of sahih is two different things. That's not a clear answer. But if the messenger of Allah was alive, you see, and we go straight to the messenger of Allah about what he said, then he could say, yes, I said that, or no, I didn't say that, and then that's kalas. You can't argue with that. You see? So there's a big difference between following hadith books and following Rasulullah. So you would have to have an ayat from Allah that says hadithi kitabin, hadith books. You see? Because the subject is kitab. The subject is not Rasul. Rasul came. He gave the book, Al-Kitab. Now, where's the other ayat that says, follow hadith books of other narrators? See? So, when we talk about purification, right, to become a person who has a pure heart, or the commandments of zakat, right, purification, or the commandments of hikmah, wisdom, or the commandments of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the right path, the straight path, the upright path, we all have it in the book of Allah. And Allah has categorized them. So, saying to me that He sent a messenger of Allah that brings forth the kitab wa hikmah, right, and who purifies you and teaches you and all that, that does not mean hadith books. That just means different categorizations within the book that has become I always have a problem with it. Specified within the book in different categories. Because on one hand, when you say kitabulillah, that's general. That's just general. But then when you go to categorizing specifics, now you could say purification ayats. Excuse me. You could say purification ayats. You can say hikmah ayats. You can say, you know, whatever category that you need to say, right? Excuse me. You can say whatever category you need to say. So I wanted to basically just briefly excuse me, point that out. Point that out real quick. So that was in Surah 17, ayat 38, 39, to keep it real brief. But actually, those are called the commands of hikmah. So, again, I'll read it. Surah 17, ayat 38 to 39, it says, the violation of any of these commandments is detestable to your Lord. This is part of the hikmah, wisdom, which your Lord has revealed to you, O Prophet, and do not set up any other God with Allah, O humanity, or you will be cast into hell blameworthy and rejected. Right? So, but if you really want to read all those rules of hikmah that Allah has mentioned in His book, you start at Surah 17, ayats 22 all the way to ayats 39. And those are titled hikmah. And that's not saying that in other places in the book there's not hikmah, but these specific ayats right there, which are commands, I'll read a few. So, number one, in Surah 22, ayat 22, it says, do not set up any other illah, God, with Allah, or you will end up condemned, abandoned, rejected. For your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him. 2. Now notice it says, and honor your parents. If one or both of them reach old age in your care, never say to them even nor yell at them. Rather, address them respectfully and be humble with them out of mercy and pray, my Lord, be merciful to them as they raised me when I was young. Your Lord knows best what is within yourselves. If you are righteous, He is certainly all forgiven of those who constantly turn to Him. And then it goes on, ayat 26, give to the close relatives their due, as well as poor and needy travelers. And do not spend wastefully. Surely the wasteful are like the brothers of the devils, and the devils are ever ungrateful to his Lord. But if you must turn them down because of lack of means to give, while hoping to receive, do not your Lord's bounty, then at least give them a kind word. So this is hikmah. This is wisdom of how you deal with people, and how you deal with your duties that Allah has given you to do. You see? Because you might not be able to fulfill some of these things, but some people feel like they got the rights to it. So what is the wise way to deal with it and handle it? People in this life always choose the way that they think is best to handle a thing. But it is not the best way to handle a thing. Right? So that's part of the wisdom. It says, do not be too tight-fisted for you will be blameworthy, nor be open-handed, for you will end up in poverty. So what they're saying is don't keep your hands, when you give wealth, don't give everything away so that you end up in poverty and having nothing. And also don't keep your hand tied to your neck so tight that you give nothing at all. But it says, surely your Lord gives abundant or limited provisions to whoever he wills. He is certainly all aware of all seeing things. Then it goes on, do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Surely killing them is a heinous sin. It goes on to ayat 33. Do not take the human life made sacred by Allah, except the legal right. If anyone is killed unjustly, we have given his heirs the authority, but do not let them exceed limits in retaliation, for indeed they're already supported by law. Right? So, and then it goes on and on to other things. Give him full measure and weight, and even balance, that is fairest and best in the end. And do not follow what you have no sure knowledge of. Indeed, all will be called to account for their hearing, sight, and intellect. So on the day of judgment, your intellect will be judged. So I wouldn't too much listen to people when they say don't follow your intellect when it's dealing with this Quran. I wouldn't listen to them, because your intellect will be questioned. That's one of the things Allah will question, instead of you blindly following what somebody else say in a hadith book or a sheikh or whoever. You have to engage this book with your intellect, and the level of intellect that you have, that's the level of test that you have between you and your Lord. So that don't mean don't share knowledge, but you know, this is your test in life. You come in this world by yourself. You got the commands of your Lord. You have to engage it. The test is to you, to yourself, and on the day of judgment, you will be questioning yourself, and your book will be handling your deeds, and not a sheikh, and not a friend, or a friend of Allah, or a sheikh, or whatever names and titles people have, where they get your book of deeds. It will be on you. So don't blind follow people. Engage your Lord in his book alone. Right? It says, 33, do not come near the wealth of orphans unless intending to enhance it until they attain maturity. Honor your pledges, for you will be surely held accountable for them. Give full and measure and weight with even balance. That is fairest and best in the end. It says, and do not walk on the earth arrogantly. Surely you can neither crack the earth nor stretch the heights of the mountains. And then it says, the violation of any of these commandments is detestable to your Lord. This is part of the hikmah, wisdom, which your Lord has revealed to you, O Prophet, and do not set up any other God with Allah, O humanity, or you will be cast into hell blameworthy and rejected. So, the hikmah that it keeps saying that the Prophet will bring to you, he teaches you the kitab, while hikmah, the book or the writing, that's just generalization of the word. But then when it says hikmah, that is specification. It's not talking about a hadith book. It's talking about other ayats that are specified in categories. So, when you get a chance, look those up. So, there's Surah 6, once again, Surah 6, ayat 150 to 153. If you read those, you'll see some of those things, Surah al-Mustaqim ayats, you'll see some of those rules inside the hikmah rules right here, coinciding. But still Allah decided to put them in different categories, and they coincide. So, Surah 6, ayat 150, 150 to 153, that's the Surat al-Mustaqim ayats. Remember, the Prophet came to guide us to what? Surat al-Mustaqim. So now that you have the Surat al-Mustaqim ayats that were revealed later, because you got to remember the Quran's revealed in stages. So, ayats that were revealed before, later on Allah revealed more ayats to explain those ayats or give more detail to those ayats that came before. And that is the tafsir of Allah. You see? And so, he brings forth the hikmah, he brings forth the hikmah ayats, he brings forth the purification ayats, he brings forth the Surat al-Mustaqim ayats. All of that is inside the book of Allah. What your Lord has revealed is what he's revealed. You follow that. What he has not mentioned, don't be concerned with that. If you find something that you follow now that's not inside the book of Allah, like anything, leave it alone. because it's not perfectly guarded or protected. So, one more time. Surat al-Mustaqim rules, Surah 6, Ayat 150 to 153. Hikmah rules, or Hikmah commandments, you start at Surah 17, Ayats 22, all the way to 39. Surah 17, Ayats 22 to all the way Ayats 39. And for a few, which there's others, but a few of the ayats of purification, you want to go to Surah 9, Ayat 103, purification of wealth, Surah 24:30, Ayat 30, excuse me, and Surah 24, Ayats 27 to 28 for ayats of purification, right? So, those are three different categories, intertwined and interconnected inside the Book of Allah alone. You don't need no hadith books to give you the hikmah. You don't need no hadith books for purification. You don't need no hadith books for tafsir. You don't need no hadith books for bayan, making something clear. It's all inside the Book of Allah, and they are in different categories. So, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. That's all I just had to share briefly. And sorry for the, the little mishaps going on. Oh, that right there, that got put there, but that is saying Allah is sufficient for us. That's what that says. Allah is sufficient for us, right? So that basically, ends that, what I wanted to just briefly give. Inshallah, we are to implement those of the hikmah, wisdom, which brings further purification, and indeed leads us on Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. This one was more so, in English. As you know, I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those that, my tajweed or whatever rules, that they have out there. I'm not. I don't really. I've tried to get into the tajweed thing at one time, but it's just for some reason, it's hard for me. The tajweed things that they got. I won't say wasted money, but but I do have a grasp of root words. I do have a grasp of certain words that I read, and the context and things like that. I say that just to say that I can read them, but for unlike other people, it's more difficult. And I know nowadays a lot of Muslims base themselves on being able to recite like a parrot. And that's no disrespect, but they so focus on only reciting, but that they don't have no understanding. They don't have no comprehension of what they read. You can go literally to 4 different contexts with the same root word, and that person won't even comprehend one context. But their tajweed is beautiful. When they read, it's beautiful. But when it comes to comprehension and understanding, they don't. It's not there, and that's not me saying everybody, but it's not there, and I've seen that a lot. No matter what sect they in, Shia, Sunni, some have better tajweed than others, but at the end of the day, you get into the context and root words and coming from what the Quran defines things as. They can't tell you. They'll tell you what their sheikh says, or they'll tell you what a hadith book says, and anybody that knows about Quran history, or just history in general, knows that words were even in hadith books they have different words that they substitute for Quranic words. So they'll call it a synonym. They'll say it's basically the same. It's basically the same meaning, but that opens up the door for different concepts to slide in, to slip in. You know? So it is best to keep the words how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it, and to keep the categories how Allah has revealed it. You know? Like right now, I don't know if anybody's saying nothing to me right now, but I can't see no words or nothing like that. You know, I notice that happens with my lives. I can't really see what people say to me until after the live is over with. But alhamdulillah. So that was just basically what I wanted to share briefly, you know. So I said that because somebody the other day, you know, they commented, said, you know, your understanding is pretty good, brother, but your tajweed is, you know, like this and that. And I said, I understand that, I know that, but I never professed to be a perfectionist at tajweed, right? The understanding that Allah gives me is because, you know, inshallah, to the level that I know of, my sincerity, right? So that's why I'm arrived at this point. And some people may disagree, alhamdulillah. That's why I started following the Quran by itself, the Quran alone, you know, because I know that this is the kitab, this is the only kitab Allah has ordained. I cannot add something in the deen that He has not ordained. That's a bid'ah. That's innovation. And it doesn't matter how many people say it's this or that. You know, it doesn't matter. Because when the prophets were sent, they wasn't made to care how majority of people were doing things. They were just there to bring the message. And then whoever accepts, accept, and whoever don't. Right? No, I'm not saying I'm a messenger of Allah or I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet, I'm not a messenger of Allah, none of that. Right? But I'm just using that as an example. When they came to their societies, the majority of people were on a certain course, a certain path of following their ancestors, following their forefathers. Right? And that was a majority agreed upon way of understanding things. And then the prophets came and said, no, that's wrong. People were offended. You're going to say after all this time we've been doing this, we're wrong? Who are you? Right? It's the same mentality that a lot of Muslims have today. You know, we've been doing it this long. Who are you? Right? And they don't realize that. I mean, and I'll pretty soon I'll be doing the history on that, history of Quran alone, because there's a lot of misrepresentation going on about that. This concept is nothing new. It's not a 21st century invention, right? It's been right there. I mean, you had Imam Shafi, who spoke against people who rejected a hadith and went by the Quran by itself. You had Ahmad bin Hanbal. He had altercations with certain people that followed the Quran by itself, right? You had several early Hadithi scholars that even made proclamations and pronouncements against people who rejected Hadith that went by the Quran by itself. So, and those are early centuries, you know. So I mean, it's not a new idea, 21st century, like people are trying to make it out to be, you know. That's just politics, sectarian politics. The fact of the matter is that we're forbidden to have sex, and the only thing that makes us have sex is Hadith books. You know Ahlul Sunnah, or you know a Sunni by his Hadith books. You know a Shia by the Hadith books. You don't know the Shia by the Quran. You don't know the Shia, you don't know the Sunni by the Quran. You know them through the Hadith books. You don't know anybody sect except that he has Hadiths by Ibad, right? So, same thing with subsects. You don't know a Zaydi Shia unless you see Zaydi Shia Hadith books, right? You don't know an Ithna Shari, a 12er Shia, unless you see 12er Shia Hadith books. You don't know a Salafi unless you see certain books that are tailored towards a Salafi viewpoint. You don't know a Hanafi until you see certain books of fiqh of a certain type of madhab curtailed to those certain books, right? So it's always the secondary source. How you know people divided into sects. The Quran's against it, but they say there's a saved sect. But the saved sect is in the Hadith book, saying it's a saved sect. But when you go to the book of your Lord, there is no safe sect. See? So, this is why, one of the reasons why even a person tries to, oh brother, you need to come back, or you need to, stop being astray. I just look at them and say, I knew for a long time we're not supposed to have sex. But I listened to other people justify through their hadith books that we can have a safe sect. And each one has a claim. Each one has a claim. And all their hadith books have holes in it, flaws in it. And then they claim it's perfectly, sometimes they say, oh no, those hadiths are perfectly preserved. Even if you perfectly preserved a hadith, you still don't have an ayat from Allah, permission from Allah to take that as deen. Because he never gave you those kitabin. He never gave you those kitabs. He gave you Al-Quran kitab. That's what he gave you. Surah 3, ayat 79. He says that you what? It is not fitting that a prophet, a person will be sent to the people, a prophet, who would say, be you my ibadan, right? My servants, rather than Allah's. But instead he would say, be you what? Rabbani, right? Rabbani, singular, Rabbani, I'm shortening it. Because of what? What you study from Al-Kitab, the book, and what you teach from it. Al-Kitab, not Kitabin, not Hadithi Kitabin. So, it's not about what people, Surah 2, ayat 177. It lets you know how, the books, or the kitab that you're supposed to follow. But we get told we have to follow hadith books. And then they try to interpret, it's not even a little ayat, they try to interpret, obey Allah, obey the messenger, as following hadith books. Not the same. Not the same. Right? So, because with hadith books, you got to go to a sheikh who tries to tell you what's sahih and what's not sahih. And then them sheikhs will disagree. And then different sects will disagree. You see? That's not a clear answer. Because Allah has nominated in his book which one of those sects are the chosen sect, because he even says there is no, they don't even divide into sects. See? So, I'm fully confident from my Lord. I'm fully confident from my Lord. And anything that I learned from my years of going through different sects, different madhabs, or la madhab, no madhab, I'm comfortable losing that and only going by what Allah has told me, that he revealed through his prophet, which is the book of Allah. You see? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest. When you even choose a sheikh or a scholar, right? They leave it up to you, the person, to determine if this sheikh or this scholar is a person of knowledge that you're going to take from. When sheikhs get the differing, they say, well, whatever sheikh you think, or whatever scholar you think, right, is the one that's teaching right, rely on that. So again, you're going according to your intellect, according to your, if they want to say, desires. So don't come to me talking about when I engage my Lord with the book that he revealed through his prophet, and I use my mind, not making stuff up, but looking for the muhakimah, looking for the clear verses and following it. And their literal commands and rules, and I follow it just like that. Don't come to me talking about I'm following my desires when my desires would be something else. My desires could be going to a club, right? My desires would be, other things. So, the level of intellect, Allah is the one that revealed the book, and Allah is the one that gave you the level of intellect for you to follow what he has commanded. No one said to follow your own desires. And that's what gives you your test. That's why the ummah is so messed up. The Muslim world is so messed up because they follow hadith books. Yep. Each party rejoicing what is with itself. They followed the path of those who came before them, who divided after the knowledge came to them through mutual envy and jealousy. And I denounce that. I'm not part of that. I denounce that. I'm not part of that. I still have my Facebook page. and other things I have to clean. It's going to take a while. I have to go back years and years to clean. It's going to take a while. If you see anything before 2020, 2009, in the 2019 on down, you might not want to try to hold me to it. Unless I today tell you, it's that part still is cool or that part is not. Because I'm strictly on the Quran by itself. I saw this 6 years ago. I didn't follow it really. Because it wasn't proof. And then other people couldn't, really give me satisfactory answers. So I just ignored all that. Like, that's crazy. That's craziness. Right? But since then, my Lord has guided me in the way through my own research. Especially when I saw the Surat al-Mustaqim, those ayats, Surah 6, ayat 150 to 153, that those were the ayats of Surat al-Mustaqim. That's when I was basically almost fully convinced. I said, you know what? And then I remember a hadith connected that I used to read on that the Prophet bent down in the sand and drew a straight line, said, this is my straight path. And then drew other branches to the side, to the right and left, and said, these are other paths. Right? And then he quoted Surah 6, the same one, Surah 6, ayat 153. This is my straight path. Follow it and do not follow any path. Once I read before that ayat to Surah 150, Surah 6, ayat 150, all the way down, and I saw that those were straight rules. That was it. That was basically it. I said, but Surat al-Mustaqim is right here in the book. I don't need that's the whole aim of the Prophet, was to guide us to Surat al-Mustaqim. And then, when you say Quran and Sunnah, you look into the Quran, the word Sunnah, it gives you the definition that the Sunan of those who came before the Prophet was revealed to the Prophet. So then, by context, that is the Prophet's Sunnah. You see? So I'm not going for other people's definition. I'm going by my Lord's definition of the word. I don't need your hadith books. Your hadith books is not the Sunnah. Those are just notes throughout generations people wrote because either they missed their prophet or people just fabricated and made stuff up. And even in case, those are not given to us as deen. Allah did not legislate that to us in deen. Surah 7, ayat 33 tell you that. You can't just take a partner in legislation with a law and just add something to the deen. Whether it be a book, hadith books, whether it be a person, whether it be whoever. You cannot just get legislations, laws, without Allah revealing permission. You can't do that. And the permission has to be to the subject. You can't say obey Allah, obey the messenger, and try to supplement that means hadith books. No, it don't. That ayah came down, it meant the messenger of Allah who was existing, who was walking, talking, and people who took the bayah. Bayah means an exchange between two, right? So between those parties, there was the exchange. And that's a covenant that they swore to. And over a course of time, the Quran had to be revealed. Right? And some say 23 years, 25 years. So ayat after ayat, right? So, of course they had to listen and obey. So they can get the whole book. But after the book was complete, the deen was complete. And Kalas, according to historical narration, he began to die. That's what they say. So the purpose of the deen was to bring this book. So I followed the book of my Lord alone, that became complete. The deen is within it. So. But in any case, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you all. And it's time to do some things. And be safe out there. Like I said at the beginning, I'll say it at the end. The Huey P. Newton Gun Club, which is very, is pretty credible, has narrated that through their resources that white supremacist groups planned from July 4th throughout the weekend to attack African Americans in different places in the United States. And they had meetings and stuff. So just be on your guard and your family. Keep yourself safe. I mean, I don't go to no July 4th, stuff like that anyway. But for people that do, or if you just walking around, be on, your P's and Q's and your lookout. Have you something with you to protect you and your family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all you, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Indeed.